She knows how to fix it. How does it turn them on? No idea.
Okay, we need this for, we need to speak into microphones and all that good stuff.
Extra light might add a little bit.
It is kind of a dark day.
Birds around.
I can't really enjoy the board meeting if I have to look at that.
Yeah, I agree. Pretty dirty up there, Tom.
Tina, are you still there?
She was just talking to me.
I see Carmen, but it says Tia.
Carmen.
Tia's here. I'm here.
Got it.
Okay, have we got everyone then? Okay, as chair, I'll call the meeting to order. It's the Rules and Regulations Committee, May 15, 2020 at 1 p.m., actually 1:05 p.m. It's being broadcast by Zoom as well as live streamed via Facebook page. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 16 meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve them such as they were. They weren't too much to go over, actually, but it's kind of what happened. Tia, you want to second that?
Tia seconds.
Is there any further discussion?
None.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Tia, we didn't hear you, so.
Look. You have to be noisier with your hand, Tia.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, we have an open forum. Corporate Secretary, is there any comments?
There are no comments.
Thank you. What we want to try and do today is have a discussion over two different policies. One is 3.03 and 3.04 that deal with membership cards and guest policies. And if we have time to discuss two different bylaws that are sitting out there. So we'll start with 3.03. Is there any discussion?
The only thing that I had was on section 4, dependent cards. It's been redlined, up to 5 guests may accompany a dependent. I was just curious, where did we come up with the 5?
The Lakes Committee looked at this issue last year, if not the year before that, and it was discussed. It went back and forth between 4 and 5. Was there a recommendation, if memory serves me correctly, that we go with 5? But recognize that that recommendation is fairly dated. I think the overall thought process is if we can limit the dependent card holders so that the kids can't say all these 30 people are my friends, and they're good, If we can limit it to 5, I think it'll help cut down on some of the issues that the rangers have to deal with.
Okay, so this primarily came from lakes, and what, a boat will carry, what, 6 people? Is that about it? I know pontoons will carry more than that. But I was wondering why it was not 4. I mean, if a dependent has a carload of classmates come out, would that be 4? I mean, most of the cars have 4 people. I was just curious why 5?
I would say that the committee, if memory serves me correctly, debated whether it should be 4 or 5. They came up with 5. I think if you pulled in our lake rangers, they would say anything under 10 would be appreciated. You know, that they would, so whether the Rules and Regulations Committee hits on 4 or 5 or a different number, I think that management would support any of those.
Okay.
Kids run in pairs.
Well,
Be it boy and girl, or girl and girl, and boy and boy, they run in pairs. And so,
that's kind of what I was thinking, that the 5 might be the dependent's close friend and 2 other couples, you know, which would make 6. I just, maybe I'm overthinking it.
I think that's why they went with 5.
Yes.
So that they
Okay.
plus the 4.
I can go along with that. The other question that I had where it says guests may accompany, do we need to get into, Doug, do we need to get into the area of accompanying, like staying within eyesight or within 100 feet, or do we have to define that? I know it's come up.
Well, it came up when the turf, again, from lakes, I think, like fishing.
Fishing.
Maybe was one of the areas that it came up with, and yeah, it's open to interpretation what accompany means. So
Well,
we don't really have a definition now. So I guess I would.
I mean, what's happening right now is that each area is making up their own rule. Whether or not, you know, say you got 2 people kayak fishing and one's on this lake and one's on that lake, well, they're still accompanied.
no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Without defining it, that's the kind of thing that we can end up with. So I'm in favor of defining it some way or another.
I agree with you. You know, you can't accompany somebody on a different lake. But I also think if you go a little bit farther, I think it's not reasonable to think, if I'm on this side of Windsor and he's on the other end of Windsor, that's not accompanying either, in which case they would need to have a guest card as
Dependent
such.
can't get a guest card. Is that correct? The dependent can't get a guest card. So they would have to be with them, is the only way they could do it, is be with them.
Yeah,
Carmen,
true.
did you hear that question?
Well, it says here guest cards cannot be issued from a dependent
Is it
card
true that
holder.
That's
a
true.
dependent cannot get a guest card?
Yep. Hit your button.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
So they would have to be with them if they're accompanying them.
They could be with them, but they can't sponsor them. The dependent's parents can sponsor them.
Okay, but a kid can't go in and get a guest card for their buddies.
No.
Okay,
Okay, I was aware of that. I guess
yeah.
I was thinking beyond dependence when we get to the point of guests, members having guests, and the fishing tournaments would be an example. Adults. How close do they have to be?
So in the recently approved boating regulations, we have some terminology regarding accompany, if memory serves me correctly. So Tammy's gonna try and pull that up and
Okay.
see if we can mimic
I was gonna
Okay.
say, I don't remember what that is, so if we have a copy
that,
to
or
look
it
at.
may have been on the proposed language that was not approved by the board. But it was a topic that we discussed at one point.
Okay.
Okay. While Tammy's looking that up, if we go to number 6, the delegation of membership privileges, do we need, in this area right here, do we need to address that the voting rights do not convey with a contract for purchase? Or is that someplace else that is already stated?
Yeah, I don't recall where that's stated, other than you have to be a member.
It is stated someplace else.
Yeah.
Do you think that it should be included here also, just as an exclusion that we can't do it? It's not, it doesn't convey?
Hey, Carmen, this section is, if memory serves me correctly, section is talking about where you can issue a membership card, an activity card, before all the paperwork is complete. Is that correct?
Say that again, Tom?
It allows you to issue an activity card before the contract is, before it's, all the paperwork is 100% completed. Is that correct? For section 6?
Mm-hmm.
What is the problem? Or is there
Yes,
one?
we still have that. It's contract for deed membership.
The question that I'm asking, not is that, anything about what's actually written. What I'm asking is, do we also need to exclude that during a land contract for purchase, the purchaser can get the membership cards, but they don't have the right to vote that property until they have completely finished their contract, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, whatever it is.
They can get an activity card, but they don't have voting privileges until that deed actually changes hands.
That's what I was talking about. That's what I was
But
trying to
it
get to.
says to delegate the amenity use of the property.
Yeah. This is talking about membership cards. I don't think it really belongs, a reference to it belongs here.
Okay, if we don't need it here, that answers my question.
Yeah.
I knew that the voting rights did not convey, I
Correct.
just
Mhm.
was questioning whether,
Yeah, I don't think it goes here.
okay, did we find anything about how close you have to be to a company?
It does not specifically say. What it says in the regulations are guests not accompanied by a member with a photo ID or activity card must have a valid guest card and/or lake use permit in their possession.
Correct. So it was one of the changes that was not approved by the board. I thought there was some language in there, but there
A
isn't.
language for distance,
Correct.
because it probably should be distance for the whole cotton picking village rather than just the lakes.
Oh, I agree with that. I think that we have to have some sort of definition of a company.
But what? That's the
Yeah.
question.
How do
Thoughts,
you-
Jerry?
How do you want to define it?
Tia, you may just have to jump in whenever, same way with Carmen, because the conversation here is pretty rapid. So if you've got something to say, to add to it, just please jump in.
I will. Thank you very much. I've been listening. I do have one request. If you guys could speak directly into your microphones when you turn your head, it's very hard to hear over the Facebook stream or the Zoom stream.
I didn't hear what she said, it was too loud.
Talking to the mic.
We could say a company could be something to nature of immediate vicinity.
Thank you.
which is also open to interpretation.
Yeah, that
Your
is.
immediate, my immediate might not be the same.
To me, it should be not any different than what the regulation is on a boat, where a youngster is operating a boat. It has to have a person 17 or older, you know, and I'm trying to think of the exact word that it says on there, but anyway, it has to be with that person. It can't be that I'm supervising that 10-year-old from the shore when he's way out there in the lake. He's got to be in the same boat and that kind of a thing. So the same thing should occur, in my opinion, to any guest.
But what about other instances like the beach,
Yeah.
the gun range, the gym facility, those types of things? I just want to make sure that we're thinking of all possibilities.
At the pool or Branchwood.
Tammy, do you have the language there where it says, I think it's in that boating regulation that Joe was talking about, where it says that the person has to be adjacent to or
Not that I
I
found
think
there,
that-
it
I
just
think it was
says
cut.
accompanied by.
I think it was cut from
Because we
it.
didn't have a
It's
definition.
just not in there.
it just says accompanied by.
It's a state regulation.
Can we just make it very simple and just say accompanied at all times?
I'm not sure that's specific enough, Tia, because
But accompanied at all times to me covers a logical person thinking you are accompanying, not escorting. Because if you just say accompany, that means you escorted them to the amenity and then you part ways. But accompanying at all times while using our amenities, I feel like that's clear.
yeah, I think some people have said that, you know, like with David's example, a kayak fishing tournament, you know, they're across the lake, and they've said, oh, I'm accompanying that person that's across the lake, which to every normal person that doesn't mean accompany, but they make that argument.
Yeah.
But those people would have a guest card, correct? So they don't have to be accompanied at all times.
If they have the guest pass, the problem comes in. I mean, they could be on a different lake if they have a guest pass, but if they do not have a guest pass, they need to be accompanied and they need to be right there with the person. And, you know, I don't know if we'll be able to write any kind of language that is going to address every possible scenario. And if you don't, it's still open to interpretation, and that's not good because people like to interpret things to their own benefit.
Immediate proximity.
20 feet?
Can I be a devil's advocate here? Other than the fishing, is there any other situation in which I have an accompanied guest that I'm not somewhere close to?
The beach.
That we have noticed?
The beach.
The beach.
And that wouldn't work because 20 feet, you could have someone in the water and someone on
On the beach,
on the
yeah.
sand, and
Uh-huh.
you're more than 20 feet away.
On the zip line,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can get more than that far apart in Branchwood.
I mean, there's going to be
Facility.
some level of reasonableness. I mean, that's why I keep on going back to the immediate
So if you say
vicinity.
in the facility, you phrase it like they have to stay within like if you're in Branchwood, you have to stay within the walls. You can be at a different part of the building, or at Reardon Hall, you could be down in the spa room and somebody else could be exercising, but you're still in that building.
How about if we do this? How about we go immediate vicinity, for example, in the same boat, on the same beach, in the same fitness room, something to that nature. Start giving examples that clearly demonstrate you got to be in the same boat.
I still think we're just muddying the waters. Remember, guys, we're only talking about a dependent card at this time. A dependent with a guest is the topic of conversation. That dependent needs to be accompanying within visual distance their guest. They don't need to be separate. If it is not a dependent, they're getting a guest card for that person going to the upper room, to the spa, all those examples you just said, that person would have a guest card if it was not a dependent situation. So dependents just need to be visually accountable to their guests.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the devil advocate, and on Loch Lomond, you can probably see over a mile. Like, you know,
Yeah,
But if I'm taking somebody with me, my sister comes to town and I take her down anywhere, I wouldn't pick up a guest pass if I'm going to be with her.
no,
And you need to be accompanying her within visual distance.
Okay, so you're saying visual distance. So across,
I don't know, because there's gonna be loopholes no matter what you say.
So across the lake is visual.
People are gonna push that too.
What about
So
verbal
we've got to
distance?
be generic, we can't get into the weeds of distance.
Within auditory, I don't want to make it too, but
Auditory and visual distance,
Yeah.
somehow that has to be the best way, because what if somebody goes to the bathroom, they're anyone's going to get away from you.
yeah.
okay, so you got an idea what we're looking at. You want to just think about the wording for a while? I mean, we don't have to come up with the exact wording here today, do we?
No, we don't have to. I mean, I can brainstorm if you guys want to brainstorm. If auditory and visual distance is kind of what you're shooting for as far as a company, I'm
Yeah, I mean, you get an idea what we're looking for,
mhm.
and
Any other thoughts, Jerry?
No.
okay, then the next question is, do we need to include that also for that kind of language for members, not dependents, because we're talking about dependents here. But Jerry brings up, I'm accompanying that guy that's over on the other lake. He doesn't have a guest pass. Well, we probably would need to get,
In that case, he doesn't have a guest pass, he's certainly wrong.
oh yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Shouldn't
He's
be-
not even on the same lake.
people need to get used to picking up guest passes rather than,
But the question comes is that I'm a member and I get a guest card for you, you fish one lake, I fish another lake. You're legal,
Yeah.
but yet, did you pay a fee? No. Or yes? Question then would be,
What-
yes. that you
Carmen,
have
what
to pay a
happens
fee.
there? Carmen, did you hear that? If I have a guest and they're on another lake and I've got a guest card from them, do they have to pay a fee or not?
Not if you're with them.
Okay.
If you're with them, but if
they're
you're
on
on two
another lake,
If they're
separate.
on
They
another
do.
lake, they do.
They do.
And we've had people who, like, they get in two kayaks, one's the property owner, the other's the guest without a guest card, and they get across the lake from each other. They need to be in eyesight of each other.
All right, so let's go with Tia's recommendation of visual, and then let's add auditory. And that way, that's clearly in close proximity.
Yeah, they'd have to stay on the
And
same.
by including auditory, and visual, we're not excluding anybody that may have a handicap. Or unless they have two handicaps.
Yeah, well, I'll work on the language
Better not be
and
alone.
propose something to the committee.
Okay, so that brings into play another policy or regulation? If we do it for something like that for adults? Members?
For guests,
Yeah, members and their guests.
Well, there is another policy that
Well, if you have a
Deals
guest
with
pass,
that.
you don't have to be accompanied.
If you have a guest pass.
If you have a guest pass,
I
you don't have to be
understand
accompanied.
that, but I mean, is this going to impact the fishing or the boating lake regulation that we just printed?
Not at this point, it won't, no.
Okay, but if we change that wording,
No, it
Okay.
would just, yeah, it would help. I would think it would be in conjunction with the way the voting regulations are right now, just provides further definition.
Yeah.
okay,
So it
we'll
does-
cross that bridge when we,
It would not, the way we're talking about wording it, it would not, in my opinion, create any need to change any language on that voting regulation sheet.
okay,
I agree, yeah.
good.
Mhm.
Don't want to go, we just voted that one in.
Yeah.
And put
Okay.
it at 1,000.
Hey, I'm sorry if I'm repeating this, because I didn't hear the last part of that conversation, but is it possible to add a statement and create a section 3 when we get to 3.04? That is just a statement of, in the absence of a physical guest card, here's the rules that I think are gonna help phrase the auditory visual, just add it to that policy.
We may have to look at that. I'd like to kind of wrap this 303 up first before we move on to something. At this point, David has expressed his concerns and his comments. Are there comments from other people?
I have one clarifying question on section 6, the delegation same area. That does not in any way impact, I mean, this is the same wording we've always had, that does not include renter amenity privileges, correct?
That's correct. That's a separate policy altogether. Or I should say a separate bylaw.
Yeah, that's not a policy, that's a bylaw, isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
So
okay.
if we're going to add more clarification regarding what accompanied means, should we have it in the guest membership card policy as opposed to the guest policy? Because the guest policy talks a lot about guest passes, doesn't necessarily talk about accompanied with a membership card. So I think this is the policy that we would want to add it to.
That's what I
303.
thought we were doing.
Oh, Tia referenced that it should go in the next one.
And I just said, I would like to finish with 303 before going to 304.
I'll put it in there.
You got it.
Okay, I want to back up then, because I think there's a few other items and so on that we need to think about. Start off with, we have two different versions of membership cards, which is 3.03. One is that has the revision dates and so on the side of it, is current, and it is one that is produced by Doug. I assume Doug did this anyway.
Yeah.
The other one is made up of comments from many different people. And I don't want to just discard all of the, without some kind of discussion with it. Because oftentimes it might make something that's a little bit better than what we currently have. And so what I want to do is to start at the top and go through them in a systematic order. We don't need to spend a lot of time on any of them. If we start out with the non-POA, with the purpose of it. There were suggestions to change establish membership rights to shall have membership rights and be able to obtain. Is there any feel for that? Does that help any? Does it hurt any?
I think none of us brought copies of that, so we're not looking at it.
Sorry.
So I don't know that anyone's going to be able to comment on
Okay.
I don't believe I have a copy of that either. I'm working off the latest document from Tammy.
Jerry, I don't see a problem with the word establish, because you establish your membership rights by presenting a copy of the recorded deed.
Okay. It has become obvious to me that the rest of the group does not even want to deal with that. They only want to deal with the one version. And I'm not happy with that at all as the chairman of the group. But if that's what the wishes are, to go ahead with that, someone make the motion to do that.
Okay, before making a motion, I have a question. Do we recommend what we have before us that Doug wrote go before the board when we haven't seen what Doug might suggest for the language about dependents and their distancing? Or do we just make a motion that we will send that to the board with Doug's language for motion, for distancing?
Do we have anything that's online? Okay.
I would like to see it move forward to the board with Doug's language included, because then at that time, we would still have a chance if, sorry, Doug, we don't like your wording.
it. No
We
problem.
don't have to move it forward, you can go back to rules and regs at that time.
I can go along with that. You want to make that motion, Tia?
Before we go to a motion, I have another comment with it. Under number 1, this is Doug's version, so we're all clear on what we're talking about. It's item 1, and it's in the second paragraph. It says, "The spouse of a sole property owner." Okay? What does that do to a husband and wife, or two people that co-own the structure, the building, the lot, whatever it is we're talking about it? What about a trustee? Many of the properties are listed in the trustee's name. So there's not a sole owner. Is that what you want in there, a sole?
Isn't that in the first paragraph?
Section
Honestly, I
1.
think so. I'm trying to think that through, 'cause I didn't really contemplate that too, right? That the spouse of the sole property owner, if the home is owned by one person, that they deem that they have a spouse living with them, I like the way it's written, because they will be issued a membership card upon completion of the sole property owner filling out that form with them. So I think that covers all bases. If someone claims that it's their spouse, they deserve that card.
My interpretation is that a sole owner is there's one name on the deed,
Correct.
but that person happens to be married.
Correct.
So they can get a membership card for this spouse.
Yeah. Jane Smith is listed on the deed. Jane Smith,
Only if
person.
the member, the owner, the sole owner signs
Request.
a completion, a signed request to have that done. Now, when you got two owners that are...
That's
it
not a
is
sole owner.
That's in the first paragraph.
Exactly right.
But that's in the first paragraph, Jerry. The cards are issued to two people. That's assuming there's two people on that deed.
I think what it boils down to, you end up with one property can have two membership cards, period, that's it. They're either the first two names or the names that the owner designates,
Or trustee on a trust.
trustee on a trust, or the spouse if they're not named, you can have 2 cards issued per lot, period, that's it.
And then the second paragraph further clarifies that you get 2 even if only 1 person is listed.
Yeah. So you could name your mother-in-law if you wanted to. Oh, I think it's okay. It took me a little while to figure that one out too, Jerry. I was looking at that and I go, sole property owner, but I suppose that
That's the reason I
situation.
brought it up, so that we
Yeah.
are clear.
Yep,
There's too many different interpretations of a lot of different things, and I wanted to make sure that that is exactly the way we wanted it. Okay? Just one last comment, and like I said,
That was a good question, Jerry.
he said that was a good question.
She said she has no.
I think, that
She had one last question.
it's something that I'm very disappointed in, that we can't have adequate discussions over things, that decisions are made ahead of time, and I just think that people should be able to provide us input, and we give it due diligence on it, rather than simply, passing it by. So go ahead with your motions.
And I would make a motion that we forward 3.03 to the board for consideration. At that time, it will have Doug's language concerning distancing for dependents and their guests, and the board can consider at that time.
Second.
Is there any further discussions? I'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Myself. So the motion carries.
One down, one to go.
And I would like it presented that way to the board, that it was not a unanimous decision. Okay, so I'm assuming then the same thing will go with policy 3.04. I have the same objections to it, that we need to consider all pieces of discussion rather than just one. But I'll open it to discussion.
Okay, Jerry, I think I have read, I don't have a copy of, but I think I have read the ones that you have before you, and I found them to be way too long and incomprehensible. I think the policy should be as short as possible while providing clarity, and that's my objection to the copies that you refer to from other sources. I think we should just go ahead and discuss what is on the one Tammy provided today.
I think that's just what I said. Using the guest policy format that it has the revision dates on the side of it. I would like to have discussion on it.
Okay, the first thing that I would question is access to association amenities. Number 3, reciprocal guests. It talks about the reciprocal guests getting access. They can have a guest pass when they come here. My experience has been, when I have visited other Cooper communities, is that if I present my membership card, paper card or plastic card, whatever it is, if I present my current membership card from my home village, I don't have to have a guest pass. And I feel that we should phrase it the same way here, that we should not make guests coming from Branson or Hot Springs or Gulf Shores. I don't think any of them should have to get a guest pass. I think by showing their current membership card, they should be allowed to use. So I'd like to rephrase that whole part.
Would you state what number that is, please?
That's 3.
3, what?
Section 2, number 3, reciprocal guests. It's on the back page, all in blue.
So again, you do not want to start from the beginning and go through anything, just...
You
jump
asked
right-
if I had any concerns. That's what I have a concern about. I'm not going to go through it line by line. That's the part that I wanted to talk about. Pardon?
Excuse me, please. All right. I think sometimes people forget who maybe is here, but go ahead.
I would really appreciate going line by line, Jerry. If you have comments on certain ones, I do not have copies of that for what your comments are. So verbally, I'd like to hear them if you have changes.
David left his seat, so we'll wait until he comes back. Now, you started. Will you go ahead?
I said my piece. I would like to change it
All right.
to say,
How would you like to change it?
I got something if you want.
go ahead.
Okay, under item 3, reciprocal guests may gain access to association amenities by virtue of possessing a current valid guest card or a current membership card from their home community.
Fine with me. That works.
And we'll
If
have,
they don't have any card on them from the other association, how can we prove that they are part of that association?
They don't get in if they don't have a card from their home base,
Then they won't need a guest pass.
home community.
Yeah, I think you
Yeah.
just
Oh,
take,
sorry, I must have misunderstood what Thomas said.
I think you just take out the guest card requirement. You just say by virtue of possessing a current
Yes.
membership card from a reciprocal community.
Yes.
don't we want to give them the option now?
So the guest
I-
pass would have to come from some
Okay,
person.
I'm fine with
I
that.
mean, my question is, would the guest pass have to come from somebody here,
Yeah.
since the association does not do it?
I don't think it would have to, because they're a guest because of their membership to someplace else, so they don't have to be sponsored guest, in which case that goes back to number 1, a sponsored guest. So they wouldn't need the guest pass because they carry their membership card from their home community.
And like Tia said, if they don't have that card, then they don't,
That's right, they're out.
then they'd have to be sponsored by somebody
Yeah, they would.
and then put them in a.
A question I have with it is that are all association reciprocal people have the same type of ID card? So, or if not, do all of our people that are looking at guest cards, reciprocal cards, whatever term we want to use, acquainted with what all of those different ID cards are?
That's a valid point because we know what Hot Springs does because that's where we get most of our guests from, or reciprocal guests from. But we could get them from, a bunch of other Cooper communities, and
Yeah.
I don't know what they have or don't have.
That's what I was just gonna say, and that point was I don't think I could name the other Cooper communities that could be considered a reciprocal guest, so.
Yeah.
Do we have a-
I think we need to leave the guest, they can get, if they can get a guest pass or the membership card, or bring their membership card.
Does, Carmen, do you have access to other Cooper communities membership list?
Here,
No,
we don't give them out either.
I just wondered if somebody would contact.
So I think we have to think about the people that are looking at passes and allowing people to enter and making life easier for these people rather than simply trying to make it easier for a reciprocal guest. It's not that difficult to get a guest card. It can be done online ahead of time.
Would you know about a reciprocal if you weren't from a Cooper community?
No.
I think we need to include the word, the term Cooper community in
Yeah.
here also. That way,
Because
some-
if you're not, you wouldn't know about it.
The only thing that our people would need to have a list of is reciprocal Cooper communities. And if they show up with a current membership
From Telecom,
card
they're
from
good.
someplace
Yeah.
else, it's good enough.
I think we need to have some flexibility in case they don't issue membership cards at the other location. I don't know. I don't know what they do at Telco Village,
I don't know either.
and even if we called and found out, they may change their policies a year from now. So I think we need to leave the flexibility of getting a guest card in there.
Which would put the responsibility of proving their membership on them when they go see Carmen.
Correct.
Right?
We do
It's
mention,
just like if I have to prove my membership.
Yeah?
we do reference Cooper communities in that first section 1, number
Okay.
C2.
All right. So we don't have to repeat it again.
Correct.
Reciprocal
Okay.
guest.
You're right. You're completely right. We don't. That would be redundant.
And that's the only time it is. It's got to be a Cooper community, doesn't it?
Correct,
Yes.
yeah.
That was my understanding when we have reciprocal.
Doug, do we need to list all the Cooper communities that we have a reciprocal agreement with? I understand it's mostly Hot Springs Village,
Yeah.
but there's 2 up in Branson.
Tom, do you know off the top of your head, do we have an agreement written with the CCI?
Yeah. I mean, that's in our. It's actually in the declaration, isn't it?
Yes.
No,
No. It isn't?
it says, it doesn't define who they are.
Doesn't.
It doesn't
But it does.
say the
Reciprocal
Fessano
with Cooper
But
community.
it does state
communities.
they have a
Yes.
reciprocal.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what I was talking
Okay.
about.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yes, it does.
Did that answer your question, Tia?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just calls them other Cooper communities, and that's the way that it is in this policy, so.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think we should enumerate out because it could change.
Okay.
Okay, since we've gone to that point, the rest of it, I have a question in my own mind about it, and that would be the second line of the item 3, section 2, where it says, starts out with reciprocal guest, and it says reciprocal guest possessing a valid guest card shall have access to fee-based association amenities at the then current guest rates. Okay, are we still a
I
fee-based?
think, yeah, they would still, well, I think we need to add in there also valid guest card or membership card. We gotta throw that in again. And yes, as a guest, they would still be able to play, do anything, but it would be fee-based. So just because they have a membership card at Hot Springs doesn't get them into the gym for free.
Okay,
They have to pay the guest rate.
because we have a guest rate, the definition of fee-based fits that.
Yes, yes.
Because like for a park and a boat and so on, there isn't any fee if you got a membership card.
Well, this allows them to be a guest without having to be sponsored by a member of Bella Vista.
But they're still a guest rather than a
But they're
member.
still a guest, and they don't get member rates. Because David, you don't get member rates when you go down to Hot Springs,
No, but it's better than the general public pays.
which is what a guest does here. I mean, if you're talking golf, not talking fitness or something like that, because
Yeah, I only do golf. So they have a special rate for the Bella Vista people who go golf.
My only point in bringing all these up is to make sure that we're all speaking on the same page and that we're all understanding the same things and we're trying to be as fair as possible to our membership based on the 2020 plan. Do you have anything else, David?
I do.
Tia?
The same section, section 2, number 3, reciprocal guests, and a few other areas on here do, just like Jerry was just saying, state fee-based association amenities. At the very top, in purpose, we remove fee-based from association amenities. Should we scratch fee-based from every other location on this document as well?
That's kind of my suggestion out of it as well, because we
Yeah.
essentially scrapped fee-based when we went to 2020 plan.
I would like to scrap fee-based on every location.
my only concern is I want to make sure that it's clear that a guest pays a fee for certain amenities. As long as that's in there somewhere, because I'd hate for a member to think a guest gets into the gym for free.
And that creates the problem as well, because they go to a lake, they can get in for free as long as they're sponsored, but they can't go to something else. And they can't go play golf for free. So there's the inconsistency there.
Well, we could put, with the accompanied fees, if there are any, or something better than that, but, or any applicable fees apply.
I think something like that would be more preferable from my part. Tia?
Would it be possible to just add it to purpose above with that, assign it to everything below if we use the same wording to say maybe allowed access to association amenities at the then current rates? Yes, rates.
If we include it in the purpose, then I think we could probably remove it from the rest of the document, because then it just becomes redundant. Agreed?
Yeah, and at least we're stating specifically at the then current guest rates. That does not include member rates, it says guest rates.
Yeah, I like that.
It puts it out there right in the front.
Says you can come, but you're gonna pay.
Yeah, I like that. I like that term. Then current guest rate. I like that a lot.
Okay, since we got a lull in it, what I'd like to do and go back to the beginning of this and go through it systematically. And this time I'm going to insist that we do it that way. We understand under purpose, crossing out the fee-based, which is what we just talked about. Okay, under guest.
Oh, hold on. So,
But we're
under purpose, we're going to cross out fee-based, but we're going to add at the then current guest rate.
Okay,
Okay.
Correct.
how about 1.1? Changes to it? believe it said it just crossed out free-based. Okay, no comment, so we'll go on. This one, there shall only be 4 categories. The association fee-based is crossed out. No further comment, we're okay. Number A, regular guest is crossed out, which is, in my opinion, a good thing, and sponsored instead. And then crossed out is, by virtue of its ownership of property, the Bella Vista Owners Association is a member of the association to sponsor regular guests. Hearing nothing. Item B, added to that is those are association guests by being sponsored by the association. By virtue of its ownership property, the Bella Vista Owners Association is a member of the authorization to sponsor association guest. I have a little problem with that. I know what it's supposed to mean, but it appears that there are many people that really don't understand that. Is there a way we can make that a little bit more clear? Or are you satisfied with the way it is? Okay, the next item is just a change in the chronological order of these. Changes from a B to a C. Any problem with that one? Any changes? Hearing none, we'll go then to D. Those who are participant guests, by virtue of being invited, permitted to participate in a specific sponsored or association sanctioned event at a specific facility. The rest of it is crossed out. My question here is, how does this relate to the fishing tournaments? They are an association approved event, but yet allowing non-members to fish without being sponsored by a member violates the 2020 plan. I think some way we need to clarify this a little bit better so that we're showing people that we are following the 2020 plan.
I'm not opposed to the way it's written because I understand the need for it. My one hesitation is I still wish that the wording would say, and this is just my personal opinion, so please take it with a grain of salt, but that those events, the guests must be sponsored by a chair of an associated committee or a member of that committee. That way we do have a member on record that is taking ownership for that event and those members.
Take a look at the, under section 2, number 4.
I saw that, approval of the association or official association committee, but it doesn't specifically say that a member sponsored that. Is that what it means though? Is that there would be a member of record for that event?
No, I was meaning more that there will be an approval process.
Yeah, I get it. Again, I'm not opposed to the way it's written, it's just one of those things that maybe we come to find out that it needs to be a little more specific down the line, but I like that it says approval of association committee. The one section that says formal approval of the association, who is that in reference to? The board? Or
association, it would be the board would be allowed to do that, or an official association committee. I think the example that I would use is earlier this year that the Lakes Committee discussed the kayak demo day, which is, 90% of the people that attend those are members. And so it went in front of the Lakes Committee, and the Lakes Committee said, yes, we're okay with that. So it had to go through a clear, as this indicates, a formal approval. So it had to go through a formal approval process in order to be allowed. So, and that takes place in a public setting with the community being able to observe and comment. So I think that's, in my mind, when we're talking about the cancer challenge shoot at the gun range, that's something that, has to be formally approved. It's not a daily thing that we're allowing non-members to use it. It's on specific occasions.
What about the Fireflies and Tailgate? That is not a committee-sponsored event anymore, so that would be the association would approve that.
Correct.
But that's held at Blowing Springs, which is open anyway.
Okay.
I guess is the term just association? It seems generic. To me, the association is the lot of all of our members combined. That is the association. It doesn't say board.
Do you want to change it, or you use the word term association throughout?
Yeah, we defined association as the POA. The corporate entity, the POA is the association. That's the way it was defined at the beginning of the policies. So I think membership would be different than the association. I think membership is kind of what you're talking about, Tia.
No, I think what she was talking about is swapping out association with board of directors.
Oh, I see. Instead of changing the definition of association, saying,
Correct.
oh,
Correct.
gotcha.
I agree with you on the definition for sure.
Okay, so such events must have the formal approval of the board of directors or an official association committee, which would be a JAG committee, or through a contract signed by management, which is like the APT golf tournament or a wedding, something like that.
Right. Yeah. So I think that when I think of management approval setting.
So I think if we change
Who'd be
this,
responsible for birthday parties? It's whatever event, or whatever,
well, typically those have a signed agreement.
Okay.
So like you have a birthday party at Branchwood,
okay.
typically you're going to have a signed agreement on that.
Okay, or pavilion.
So I think based upon what Tia is saying, if we swap out that one use of the word association with board of directors, I think we're accomplishing your needs. Is that correct, Tia?
Correct. Agreed.
Just as a side note with it, the committees are not the ones that catch the flack on something. It's the board that has to be accountable. So I certainly agree with changing it to the board.
So where are you going to put board?
Okay, so right here where it says approval of the association, we drop the word association and replace that with board of directors.
So you're saying, Jerry, you don't like the official association committee? Is that what you're saying?
Didn't understand what you said.
You're saying you do not like the term, the official association committee? That they should not have the authority?
What I'm saying is that committees take no responsibilities. Okay, everything, the accountability falls back to the board. Okay, so the committees really do not have the authority to, they can recommend yes or no. They really can't make that decision according to the legal governance. We want to change the governance, is fine. I don't like to want to bring everything to the board, no.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That my question comes back to, if the association is going to sponsor something, it should go through the board.
I think it
I
should be
think that-
routed through the committee, because the committee is the one that's going to vet it. I mean,
They should, yes.
I agree with that.
And that the committee should make the recommendation to the board, just like they do with members of the committee and everything else. You know, and I think, you know, people pretty well know what the board is going to approve or not, or if it's on a borderline kind of a thing. And, I mean, we all feel that way. But it's the board that is held accountable. We have seen that time and time and time again. It's not management, it's not the committees, it's the board. And, I mean, I spent a lot of years as a chief administrator of a very large department, much larger than what this is even, spread out through the entire state. I was accountable for all of them. And I felt good about it, and it didn't bother me at all. But there are some things that have occurred here that I'm not comfortable if I don't know who the people are, and if I don't know exactly how they've been trained, and whether or not they're credible. And so we've seen through the lawsuits, the board is held accountable. I want to ensure that next year, 5 years, 10 years down the line, that to the best of my ability, we are not sued or held accountable for something that we should have done, something that we should have taken care of, you know, during my tenure. That's where I've come from. Nothing more than that.
So Jerry, how about if we change that sentence to, such events must have the formal approval of the association or approval of the board, comma, the association upon a recommendation from association committee, normally through a contract signed, some wording, something like that, add the board and the association, and say, you know, the recommendation from the committee.
As long as it's worded enough in there that there basically is some wiggle room. In other words, if I don't agree with it, I have the ability or the to say I don't agree with it and not just accept it because it came from the committee.
Well, it says that the formal approval of the board by a recommendation from a committee.
I heard what you said. To me, that's it.
It's absolutely not what I'm saying. I hear both of you and I respect your opinions, but I think I just have a very different opinion on it. That I do want our committees to feel like they are important, and they are important when they have we have board representation at every committee meeting. If there's something that comes up that's an issue, the board is going to be aware. That is why we're on those committees, to help guide and give vision and to manage budget. So to me, if the committee votes to have an event, I do not, as a board member, want to be aware of every single event that is going on in our association. We are way too big for that. When it affects the budget, then yes, absolutely, that is the board member's job. But I have been on this board for a year, and never once have I approved some event every time it happens. I think our committees are very capable of doing that. And again, with the board representation at each meeting, we are still involved.
So Tia, you're saying then that we probably covered in this case because these large things are going to have some kind of contract that's signed by management, and since the board hires the management, that's our oversight? Is that kind of a roundabout way?
Yeah, but okay, so what, based upon what Tia just said, it would read, second sentence, such events must have the formal approval of the board of directors or an official association committee, normally through a contract signed by management. Is that correct, Tia?
Correct, I feel that covers everything.
Or,
Yeah.
good by me.
Okay, we'll move on then. Item number 2, access to association amenities. Number 1, I think everyone has copies of it, so I'm not going to continue reading them. Are you okay with the way it is?
I am.
Yes.
Okay, it has the word fee-based in there, of which we've taken out fee-based out of other ones.
We'll remove that.
By adding at the current guest rate, that just takes care of it, doesn't it?
At the top, yeah.
Yeah, but that's also in the sentence. If you take out fee-based association amenities at the current guest rates, you don't need the fee-based. It's just saying you're at the current guest rate.
Yeah, actually, what we can do, we can remove possessing a valid guest card shall have access to association amenities, because the fee-based is already covered at the very beginning and under purpose.
Okay, so you don't think you then need current guest rate?
I don't think you need to repeat it because it's
Okay.
at the very top.
Okay,
It then covers everything.
okay.
Okay, but essentially that's saying that a sponsored guest would pay a fee on a lake.
Yeah, so, and at the beginning, under purpose, it would say to define the conditions under which non-members of the association may be allowed access to association amenities at the then current guest rate when applicable.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, we ready to move to?
Well, Jerry, what you just said about fishing and a sponsored guest has a card, and I believe the question that you asked was, if that guy goes off, let's say he's in the member's boat, and he goes off to fish by himself, is he supposed to pay a lake use fee? Is that the question that you asked?
The way this reads to me, the way I interpret it, a sponsored guest, okay. I'm sponsoring you, I get you a guest card, okay. Or I don't get a guest card for you because you're with me. Under this, the way I read it and understand it, means you still pay a fee. Whether you have a guest card or not a guest card, whether you're with me or not with me.
Yeah, because this is talking about access. It's not going to talking about fees.
Okay, is the fee that Jerry's talking about addressed any place?
Yeah, at the very beginning, under purpose.
So then you're saying that I take somebody with me, I take my brother-in-law with me fishing, we go out on the lake, and he has to pay a lake use fee. Is that what you're saying?
No. So what I'm saying is, at the top, it would say, at the then current guest rate, comma, when applicable.
That's
Because
under
remember,
purpose.
this is talking about access. It's not talking about fees. They're two separate. We've split the issue.
Okay, where are the fees addressed?
Well, the fees are addressed on the fee schedule. Because on the fee schedule, it says guest.
Okay, so is that a question for Carmen?
Because remember, we don't want to, the guest fees change every year, so we don't want to get too deep into the weeds here.
Well,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is, Jerry, are you saying that if I take a boater with me to go fishing, they are not paying a guest fee?
That's the way it is in practice, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so according to this, if they're a guest, they should be paying a fee.
No, because it's the then current guest rate when applicable. And on the fee schedule, it says if you're accompanied, you don't have to pay
Correct.
On the water,
on the water.
okay? But elsewhere I do pay.
So this is effectively pointing to the fee schedule.
Okay,
So then, the same token, if the guy takes off and leaves the member sitting on the dock, needs to pay a use fee.
Correct.
Technically, yes.
So it is addressed.
Correct.
It's just very apparently confusing.
That's correct, too.
Yes, it can be confusing, yes.
But the lake rangers understand it.
Yes, they understand it.
Now we need to get the membership to understand it.
Yeah. And the thing that I always like to say is, if you joined a gym, you're gonna have several rules that you're gonna understand. Well, we're a gym on steroids because we have rules that apply to the gym and to the lakes and to the golf and and so we have everything, and so it's a little bit complicated, but that's because we offer so much.
It's complicated, all right.
But if you were a member of a gym, you would have certain rules that would apply to that gym.
Okay. I'm assuming that if we were to make this clear to all the boat owners, if they understood it, that'd probably take care of about 99% of the problem.
And maybe that has to be handled through maybe an article in our newsletter.
That was the reason why the lake rangers went to being able to collect the fees on the water.
But they don't do that anymore, do they?
Well, they do, but they don't do it nearly as much because before they were collecting it from members and from guests, and now they're just collecting it from guests.
Okay.
Because it is confusing. That's one of the efforts that I've tried to do, is to unconfuse things as best we can, but
Well, it's hard to explain, too.
Well, the 2020 plan has made it easier,
yes,
but not perfect.
we solved a number of problems, we created a few new ones, but overall, we gained.
Progress is direction, not speed. Making progress.
Okay, we through with one? Item 2, or section 2, item 1. Let's go to section 2, item 2. Any comments concerning it? I think it still has some confusion with it in calling association guest, but that's as far as I'm going to say with it. No comments?
what would a guest of a restaurant be if it wasn't an association guest?
That's what it's got to be. That they're an association guest, and then on the bottom it says, in those situations, a guest card will neither be issued nor required of the guest. So that clearly states that they're association guests and they can use the restaurant, golf, tennis, and then the other ones.
And by dividing the 2020 plan in that manner, it made them association guest.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure, I know we finished with reciprocal guest, which is item 3. I'm not sure if we finished with item 4, participant guest. Is there any comment on it?
Pretty much what we decided was to strike the word association in the second line and replace it with board of directors or board. Is that what we decided to do?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay, the last item, number 5, guest cards may be issued and valid for up to 1 year from the date of issuance. I really don't like the term 1 year for all guest cards. If there could be a duration of the event or something of that nature, some way to define how long they can have a guest card.
We could put the guest cards may be issued for the duration or the event, or in the case of a renter, can be issued for up to a year.
Not sure if I like the word renter in there, but
That was my concern. That's the only time I think that a guest pass should be issued for a year, is if you have someone renting long-term and the owner of the property is willing to assign usage rights to the tenant, you would do it for 1 year, the term of the lease. Other than that, I don't think anybody deserves more than a 30-day pass or guest pass.
And-
Even if they come and, stay here for 3 months of the winter or something like that.
Carmen, how does your team manage that with figuring out how long a guest card should be?
If they don't put any end date on it, we do it 30 days. A lot of what we get in is from property managers or owners, and they do them for a year.
Has there ever been a situation where you had to turn somebody down because they want a year and they're just a day off visitor all year from Centerton?
If they ask for a year, if the person sponsoring them asks for that, then they can, right now.
Okay.
If I've got a brother that lives in Bentonville and I play golf with him all the time, should I have to renew it every 30 days?
Good point.
Well, use a different example because golf, he doesn't need it, but
Yeah.
let's say you go to the gym together.
He goes to gym together, comes over and goes to gym with me. Except that's the same thing.
To me, I don't see the downfall of it saying issued for up to a year. They're guests of a member, it is a member asking for it. If a member wants to do it, they can do it. That's their privilege, right, whichever way you want to look at it. Plus, guests are paying a fee.
Yeah, they do. I guess they give us money.
since we've been here for, I'd call it our immediate family, that it would be children of their children and their children, grandparents kind of a thing. We don't have any other grandparents, so anyway, get the guest card for each of those people at the beginning of the year. It's valid the entire year, because I never know when they may come. Okay, when they come, if it's going to the pool, then we pay a guest fee at that particular time. Okay, that's how we operate with it. But does everyone? I don't know.
So it sounds like just leave it the way it's written?
If you have a guest pass and there's a fee associated, you have to pay it.
Right.
Except if you're on the lake.
If you're on the lake by yourself, you have to pay the lake fee.
Right.
You can't be on a guest by yourself unless you have a guest pass.
And if you bring you're a guest and you bring your boat, you have to register your boat. And that's only, Carmen, good for 30 days or a week or what?
I don't think she
I
heard
don't
you.
think sure did.
Carmen,
Yes,
a guest brings his boat. How long does he register that boat, or temporary registration? Is it a week or 30 days, or is there
there's both. You can get it a week or you can get it 30 days.
either or?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, how do we want to leave it? Leave it as it is? Do we want to add in duration of event or something to that nature?
I think you leave it as it is.
If it's just an event, it's very unlikely that there's going to be guest cards issued anyway.
Correct. I mean, we're not going to issue guest cards if it's a cancer challenge.
No.
Um,
I guess I'm fine with leaving it that way.
I like Tia's point of view. It's a member asking.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. I wanted to hear what other people thought, and I get it. I'm good with it.
Okay, do we have any further comments on policy 3.04?
No, sir?
To have a motion to move it on to the board?
I'll make that motion.
Again?
Okay, one last time. Any further discussions?
We made a couple of word changes, right?
Yeah, I got them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And perhaps the motion should read that as amended during this
Yeah, I
discussion.
move to, as we made the word change amended.
Okay, any further discussions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tia?
I didn't hear your last sentence, I'm sorry.
Are you in favor of the motion to move it forward as amended?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, 2:30. I promised different folks that I have something to do by 3 o'clock, so we still have 30 minutes if you're willing to stick with it. I don't think these will take that long. Bylaws, Article 6, Section 4, voting by proxy.
So Jerry, in your email, you said you wanted to discuss this. In order to try and make the discussion a little bit easier, I asked Doug to put together some red line documents that he can hand out. Of course, Tia and Carmen would be able to get the red line version, but we just wanted to try and make the conversation a little bit easier to go through.
Okay, Tia, the only change that is offered by management is in Section 4, voting by proxy, and it's an insertion, comes in to be line 5, and what it states is the proxy may be delivered by official association email, signed by including the director's digitally printed full name and date, and provided for by Article 10, Section 4 of these bylaws. Essentially what I had sent to you earlier. There's no other changes. Do you have any questions?
Just for my clarification, the only change is it's now okay to send it by email.
Yes. That's my understanding.
That's the only change, right?
That's the intent
Okay,
of it.
all right.
Which has actually been the practice for some time.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're just legalizing it.
okay, but that's the only change I see.
Yep.
But tell that you're supposed to deliver it to the secretary. Now you can send it by email. Okay. Makes sense.
In our days of
Sometimes I'm slow
social
on the upgo.
distancing.
Drop the word
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay, we probably should have a motion to the effect. David?
I will make the motion to add that sentence to section 4. The proxy may be delivered by official association email, signed by, including the director's digitally printed full name and date, as provided for by Article 10, Section 4 of these bylaws.
Do you have your second? Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
We're making progress now, Jerry.
Doug, you can hand out the other one?
Feel free to. Okay. Meeting of members.
This one I did change up just a little bit, so I'll let you look at it first.
Okay, we're looking at Article 11, Meeting of Members. You want to go ahead, Doug?
Yeah, so the comment, I think these were both from Jerry, the changes were suggested from Jerry to add at least 30 minutes before the commencement of the meeting. So voting on any questions shall be by ballot received by the association. And then I added the words at least 30 minutes before the commencement of the meeting. That's what we did this time. We specified that on the instructions, but it's good to have it here in the articles. The second change that Jerry suggested was adding a sentence to kind of also take into effect what occurred with the assessment increase vote, this last assessment increase vote. A ballot proxy which is signed and left and delivered to the association but not voted. Jerry said may be voted or shall be voted yes, something to that effect, but I changed the last part of this to say a ballot/proxy which is signed and delivered but to the association but not voted may be voted as directed by the association. Again, this is just a suggestion, Jerry's.
No. Because the question could be yes or the question could be no.
Correct. So, or it could be affirm or deny. You know, it just depends on how what the ballot states. There could be. It might not be a yes or no question. It might be stated some other way. So I tried to take that into account when I was drafting this. But again, it's just a suggestion. So open for the discussion by the committee.
What about also if we changed in the first line where it says ballot, go ballot proxy? Because we've been using that quite a,
Okay.
or by ballots/proxies or.
Section
ballot.
5.
Yeah, still.
Still in section
Because
5.
because you use that down below the ballot, or here's the question, you have the word ballot in here a couple times. In every instance where it says ballot, should we change it to ballot/proxy? Because it's in section 3B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate to do, yes.
Okay, I will note those as well.
Okay, the last part of it simply was trying to put it into writing as to what will happen with that ballot. I think we need to define rather than just leave it open. It should be either a yes or no, affirmative, or something as to how and what, or just simply counted as part of the quorum, but not counted towards whatever the issue is.
You could leave it as yes, simply because you would just shape the question accordingly.
Yeah.
I mean, I see where you're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
and I see where you're coming from. So if we just said it's in the affirmative, then you just shape the question in that direction.
As long as the board, yeah, and the membership is aware of that concern.
Just trying to eliminate another point of controversy.
And you probably print it on every ballot that goes out, that if you sign it and send it back in, we're going to vote it the way we want.
No,
No, you're
what
gonna
Jerry's
vote yes.
saying is,
But
is signed and delivered to the association but not voted shall be voted in the affirmative.
Mhm.
That satisfies me.
So then you're careful about how you
Or,
pose the question.
yeah. Question then becomes voting for the board of directors. If they mark it, but I don't know what the process is because I do not vote.
Okay. Well, you might want to add that is except in the.
Yeah, that was the other
except in
issue
the
to bring
instance
up.
of the election.
Right. Yeah, and that was the second issue to bring up was, the board shall not vote in an election. For
Yeah, we don't
directors or
want to
something
touch
like
that at all.
Exactly.
I mean, I give full disclosure on it. My wife does the voting. We don't even discuss it.
She gets the mailbox
Because I
first.
see it as a conflict of interest, or it could be looked at as that, and that's why I don't. So, do we agree on something? You look a little puzzled.
I'm still just trying to piece together in my mind how to say that we're not going to vote a ballot in a board, like a board member election. Any question like an assessment increase or a declaration change, those things,
Does
yeah,
a member sign the ballot?
yes.
How about this?
Okay.
You want to share this one? A ballot proxy which is signed and delivered to the association but not voted shall be voted in the affirmative except in the instance of a board election.
And in that case, if it's signed and not marked, I mean, it's basically a no vote.
That's right, yeah,
It's nothing.
yeah. So if you say except in the event of a board election, then yes, if there's nothing marked, then it would become a non-vote. It would not be
Because there's
counted
no
any- There's no quorum requirement for the Board of Election Directors, so yeah. I think that works for me.
Okay,
So I'm going to be Joe Citizen out here, member out here, and say, okay, so in board elections, they don't count, but other elections, they do count. Which are you going to have? That's not my thinking. That's a member thinking. You've just contradicted yourself. For
Board
one it
of-
counts, the other one it doesn't.
You're talking about Board of Directors election.
I understand that, but if,
Not necessarily, Ruth, because the way if they have not marked a candidate, there's not a non-vote.
I
So I
understand that.
don't know whether we need to even say anything about it.
But, and that was my next statement, is I would leave off the directors, because it's not a vote that's legitimate as far as that goes. Because the other one has a yes or a no, you have signed it to send the ballot in, and that makes it legitimate for the board to vote it as they choose to vote it, or an affirmative. The other one is is just not in there. So I would just leave that off altogether.
And we don't,
So-
definitely do not want the feeling that the board will choose
Yeah.
who they
No,
want to
it's
vote
because
for.
you're contradicting it. One says you
How-
will vote it, one says you won't vote it.
how about if you just kill the whole red line last sentence? Just kill it, because it would be in the ballot anyways. It would be in the ballot instructions that if you don't vote, but you sign it and you deliver it, it states it'll be voted in this way. It's in the instructions. Maybe we just, and you would only do that for an assessment increase. You would never include that language in a board election.
You just-
So how about, because even the way I've written it, legally, I think it makes sense, but it's not easy to read.
Confusing.
I think you keep the 30 minutes in there and nothing else, other than the ballot proxy. For that last sentence, I just think it's going to be, but it has the potential of being misunderstood in the negative.
And you can get misunderstandings by not putting it in there too.
Yeah,
You're gonna get
that's-
hung if you do and
that's the
hung if you
reason for
don't.
Yeah.
wanting to have something in there that I can see
Maybe per
leaving
directions
out.
of the ballot,
Hmm?
per directions of the ballot.
But that still leaves it open to interpretation that each board could, or management, whoever creates these, the committee, to one time say it'll be no, and one time say yes, and
Okay.
the next time it won't be counted, or,
Okay, so we could go back to what I originally suggested, the ballot proxy which is signed and delivered to the association but not voted shall be voted in the affirmative, except in the instance of a board of directors election where it is a non-vote.
to me, that spells it out pretty clean. Something that we can all fall back onto.
You all right with that, Doug?
Yeah. I'm just remembering that we state that somewhere in the policy, and I'm not locating it right now, but I'll look at it and
Okay.
I'll
It's-
double check
it's
on
there
that. It
someplace.
is, yeah, I just can't put my finger on it, but we'll include language to that effect and then let the committee double check it.
The 30 minutes is in the policy on the
Yeah, that which
committee,
has changed, yeah.
but I don't remember anything about the ballot itself in there. It could be. I just,
Yeah, not necessarily the ballot, but when we changed the association voting the lots that the association owned, we made a change to that language, and I'm just not putting my finger on it right now.
yeah, as usual, I mean, we need to go back and look at the other policies, the other bylaws and so on, and see where and if we impacted any of those. But I think we're at a point where a motion to do something with 304 is appropriate.
We did 304. You're talking about Article 11?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I
6 and 11?
misspoke. Article 11, yes,
So
bylaws.
the changes we made to 11 are ballot/proxy in B
B and section 4.
and section, oh,
Section 4 has it as well, I'll change that.
okay. And then in 5, you're going to change that last sentence.
And adding at least 30 minutes.
Yeah, add 30 minutes, but then change that last section.
Yeah.
Okay. I will make a motion to forward that to the board for their consideration.
Tia, are you seconding? Are you there, Tia?
She's on mute. Tia's on mute.
Maybe we put her to sleep.
Or she may have had to take a call.
Yeah. If you don't mind, we'll wait just a second, see if she comes back on. I think we could probably do it without her, since we only have 3 members of the committee now, and 2 of those are present. So. Give you one last chance, Tia. Are you still there?
I guess you'll have to second it, Jerry.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second it. And is there any further discussions? Okay, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
I have a
Okay,
logistics question. Do all of these require 2 readings?
yes.
If you take it to the board, and the board accepts it, and they vote on it this month, this board would have one vote, and the next board would have another vote.
Yes,
Is that a problem?
Still board.
shouldn't be.
Unless you want to
Okay.
declare an emergency.
No, no, I'm not,
Board is
but I'm
a
just
board.
saying, is, just for clarification.
Yeah.
It's-
Board is a
A board
board.
is a board is a board, okay.
And that way, since the new board will have to vote on these, that way it will not, there shouldn't be any perception that
Railroaded it.
you're trying to get this done at the last minute
Yeah.
because the old board votes once and the new board votes once.
That's fine.
You could wait and have the new board vote twice, but why? They have to vote once, so they can kill it at that point if they don't like it.
My question was,
If the current board votes these down, then,
a new board could take it up.
you know,
It'd probably go back to the rules and regulations for,
yeah. So, I mean, personally, and why I was trying to schedule these is that it gives an old board and a new board, so that there's not the confusion between the,
I just wanted to clarify that this would be a standard for anybody listening, that will happen.
yeah,
It's not that I objected in any way, it's just that's what's going to happen.
yeah.
Carmen, do you have anything left?
So sorry, I could hear you the entire time, but my screen would not turn on. So I would have seconded, yes, I do vote to pass this forward to the next board. I agree, that's perfectly fine. The new board and the current board vote on this.
We'll update the voting record to show.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Tia or Carmen?
Yes, sir.
I'll move to adjourn.
You good, Carmen?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, I don't have anything else. I thank you. I think it turned out in a good discussion, trying to get the best of all the worlds. Everybody's got different ideas and interpretations of things, and I think we did a fairly good job getting to that point. We'll just see whether or not the full board agrees with this or not, or shoves it back to us.
Possibility.
I think we're stand adjourned then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this stuff.
No problem.